What if the nurse who saved your life at a glamorous charity gala turned out to be your late wife's best friend, the one who vanished years ago under mysterious circumstances? Imagine collapsing in a ballroom full of strangers, only to wake up in the arms of someone who shouldn't know your name, yet looks at your daughter with a haunting familiarity. That's exactly what happened to Michael Bennett, a widowed architect clinging to the fragments of a life he'd lost. But the woman who brought him back from the brink, Emily Carter, wasn't just a medical professional doing her job. She carried a secret, one that could unravel everything Michael thought he knew about his past, his wife, and the woman who was quietly becoming part of his future. As fate pulls them closer, buried letters, long-lost friendships, and painful betrayals begin to surface. And when the truth finally erupts, it threatens to destroy the fragile healing they've fought so hard to build. Stay with us, because the moment you think you understand this story is the moment it twists into something deeper, something unforgettable. What did Catherine try to reveal before she died, and why was it hidden for so long? The answers will leave you breathless. What if the person saving your life wasn't just a stranger, but someone holding the key to a truth you never imagined? The ballroom shimmered with soft golden lights and crystal chandeliers, but all Michael Bennett could feel was the unbearable weight pressing down on his chest. He loosened his tie for the third time that night, barely able to focus on the meaningless chatter around him. It was the annual gala for sustainable architecture, and as the guest of honor, he was expected to smile toast and pretend he was fine. But he wasn't. 3 years had passed since his wife Catherine died, and still the memory of her haunted every room he entered, especially tonight. And when his daughter Lily gently tugged on his sleeve and whispered, "Dad, are you okay?" Her turquoise dress swaying as she looked up with her mother's eyes, Michael forced a weary smile and lied, "I'm just a little tired, sweetheart." Moments later, his world spun. The lights blurred, the floor tilted. He reached for a chair, missed, and collapsed. "Someone call 911, gasped a guest. "Move! I'm a nurse!" A woman in a deep green dress dropped to her knees beside him. Her hands were steady voice, calm but urgent. "Sir, can you hear me? Stay with me." Little Lily stood frozen, her hands shaking as she clutched the fabric of her father's suit. "Please don't leave me, Daddy." The nurse turned to her gently. "I need you to step back, sweetheart. I'm going to help him, okay?" Promise, Lily whispered, eyes brimming with tears. "My mom's already in heaven. I can't lose my dad, too." "I promise," the woman said softly, and for a brief second, something in her chest tightened. It wasn't just sympathy, it was something else, something eerily familiar. The paramedics arrived just as Michael opened his eyes, dazed and pale. "What happened?" he asked hoarsely. "You fainted," the nurse told him, pressing a hand to his shoulder as he tried to sit up. "When was the last time you ate?" Michael blinked. I don't remember." As he sat up with help, his daughter wrapped her arms around him, tears streaking her cheeks. "You're okay now, right?" "I'm okay," he whispered, though his voice trembled with weakness. The nurse watched them closely. There was something haunting about the man. The wedding ring on his finger. The way the girl held on to him like he was the last thing she had. And then she saw at Lily's eyes. That exact shade of blue-green. The same eyes from a photo buried deep in her purse. "Sir, I think you should go to the hospital," said a paramedic. "No need," Michael insisted. "Just dizzy. I'll rest at home." The nurse crouched beside him again, offering her card. "I'm Emily Carter. If you need anything, even just advice, please call me." Michael nodded, accepting the card, still too disoriented to notice her trembling fingers. Emily stood up, and as he and Lily left in a taxi, she slowly pulled a photograph from her handbag, a picture taken decades ago. 2 teenage girls smiling on a beach. One of them was Catherine. The other was Emily. That night in her small Chicago apartment, Emily sat in silence at her laptop. Her hands shook as she opened an old email account she hadn't touched in years. Dozens of unread messages stared back at her. From Catherine Hayes. "Subject, please. I need to talk to you." The last email was dated just 3 weeks before Catherine's death. Emily's heart pounded as she read the words, "There's something you need to know about the past. Something important. Please respond before it's too late." Tears welled in her eyes. Too late. Catherine had reached out desperate, and Emily had never seen it, never answered. Now fate had brought her face to face with Catherine's husband and daughter. Was this a second chance or a cruel twist of destiny? 2 weeks later, Michael sat stiffly in the waiting room of Chicago General Hospital. Lily flipped through a children's magazine beside him. "Dad, are you sick again?" she asked. "No, just a checkup. Like when you had a tummy ache, remember?" She nodded, unconvinced. "Mr. Bennett," called a voice. Michael looked up and his breath caught. It was her. Emily Carter stood in the doorway in her nurse's uniform holding a tablet. You saved my dad!" Lily shouted, jumping up with excitement. Emily forced a polite smile. What a surprise, she said, though. She had pulled strings to ensure she'd be assigned to his follow-up. In the examination room, Emily checked his vitals. His blood pressure was dangerously high. "Have you been resting?" she asked. "Too much work," he muttered, avoiding her eyes. "He sleeps on the couch with papers all around him," Lily offered helpfully, "and sometimes forgets dinner." Emily looked at him, her voice low. "It's not okay that your daughter has to worry about you like this." The doctor confirmed her concerns. Michael needed real rest, a better diet, and maybe even home care. "That won't be necessary," Michael protested. "Please, Daddy," Lily whispered. "Promise me you'll take care of yourself." Michael sighed. "Okay, but only for a while. I can do the visits," Emily said suddenly. Her voice was calm, but her heart raced. "I know your case. I'm available." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Why are you so interested in helping us?" Emily hesitated. She wasn't ready to tell him the truth. "Not yet. It's my job," she said simply. "And your daughter reminds me of someone I used to know." That was how it began. Emily visited 3 times a week. She cooked light meals, organized medications, created a routine Michael could follow. Slowly, the coldness in him thawed. Lily adored her, and Michael, though still guarded, started to depend on her presence. But one night, as Emily stood in the kitchen, Lily asked a question that hit her like a brick. "Why don't you have kids, Emily?" I work a lot," she replied, caught off guard. "Did you ever love someone?" Emily stared at the girl. "Yes, but sometimes love isn't enough." Lily nodded. "My grandma says my mom was the only love Dad ever had." "Do you think that's true? That we can only love one person in our whole life?" Before Emily could answer, Michael entered the room. "Lily, don't ask so many questions." "She's not bothering me," Emily said quickly. Michael looked at them. Emily cooking, Lily helping her set the table, and for the first time in years, something inside him flickered. A spark of warmth, of home. That night, as Lily begged her to stay for dinner, Michael hesitated but allowed it. And for a moment they laughed. They ate. They felt normal. But behind Emily's smile, a storm brewed. How long could she keep this secret? How long until the truth came crashing down? "We're sorry to leave you here, right when things are getting intense. But what do you think will happen when Michael finds out who Emily really is? Should Emily tell the truth before it's too late? Or will silence cost her everything?" Let us know where you're watching from, and if this story moved you, please give it a like and send us a heart. We truly appreciate your support. It was supposed to be just another quiet visit. Emily had stopped by with a container of homemade soup, some new vitamins, and the gentle reminder that Michael needed to get at least 6 hours of sleep a night. But that evening, everything changed. Michael had just returned from a long client meeting. His tie was crooked, his hair windblown, and a weariness clung to him that even Emily noticed from the doorway. "You're pushing yourself again," she said softly. Michael gave a tired smile. Old habits. While Lily finished homework in her room, Emily began tidying the kitchen. As she reached for a high shelf to store an unused medicine bottle, a small stack of photo albums fell onto the counter. One opened, and there it was, a photograph that shouldn't have been there. Michael entered just in time to see Emily frozen, staring down at a picture of 2 teenage girls on a beach, laughing arms around each other, with the ocean behind them. One was unmistakably Catherine. The other, with that same unmistakable jawline and warm eyes, was Emily. He stopped cold. "What is this?" he asked, voice low. Emily turned slowly, heart-racing, color draining from her face. "Michael, I can explain. You knew Catherine." His tone sharpened. "You knew my wife and never told me. I didn't mean to hide it. But you did." Emily swallowed hard. "We were best friends. years ago, but something happened and we lost touch. You had weeks, months to say something. You cooked in my kitchen. You sat at my table. You tucked in my daughter, all while pretending you were a stranger. I wasn't pretending, she said, eyes glassy. I was afraid. Michael's voice broke. Afraid of what? Of how you'd look at me. Like you are now. Emily stepped forward. I didn't come into your lives by design, but once I was here, I stayed because I care. About Lily. About you. I care more than I ever planned to. Michael's fist clenched at his sides. You think that makes this better? No, she whispered. But it makes it real. Just then, a small voice broke the tension. Why are you yelling? Lily stood at the kitchen door, hugging her stuffed animal, tears pooling in her eyes. Is Emily leaving? Michael glanced at his daughter, then back at Emily. Yes, she is. Emily's breath caught. Lily ran to her, wrapping her arms tight around her waist. Please don't go. You're like when Mom was here. Emily knelt down, holding Lily close. You're so loved, sweetheart. Always. Then she stood, walked past Michael, and left. The door clicked shut behind her, but the echo of that moment slammed through the house like thunder. That night, after Lily had cried herself to sleep, Michael sat alone on the couch, staring at the old photo of Catherine and Emily. His mind spiraled with unanswered questions. What else hadn't he known? The next morning, he found a dusty box of old letters in the back of Catherine's closet. Letters she'd written but never sent. Most were addressed to Emily. One of them, dated 3 weeks before Catherine's death, read, I miss you. I was wrong. There's something I need to tell you, something Mom did that I can't keep quiet about anymore. Please let me explain everything before it's too late. Michael's hands shook. He confronted Margaret that evening. Her expression when he showed her the letters shifted from indignation to guilt. Finally, she broke. I was afraid she'd drift away from me, Margaret said, voice cracking. Emily was pulling her away. I lied. I told Catherine that Emily betrayed her, and I made sure the friendship ended. You destroyed something that mattered to both of them, Michael snapped. I lost my husband. I couldn't lose her too. And because of that, Catherine spent her last year in regret, in silence. Michael's voice was steel now. You don't get to control this anymore. Later that night, as he sat beside a sleeping Lily, Michael whispered, We're going to find her. We owe her that. The next morning, father and daughter packed a bag and headed for Seaside, Oregon, the town Catherine had often spoken of, the place she and Emily had once called home. It took them hours of searching, questions asked at gas stations and diners, but finally a kind old woman at a beachside cafe pointed them toward the community health clinic. She's the nurse helping the fishermen every Saturday morning. They found her on the beach, kneeling beside a weathered man with a wounded hand. When she looked up, her eyes widened. She didn't speak. Neither did Michael. Lily was the first to move. Emily. She ran into her arms. Emily held her tight. Her eyes, however, remained locked on Michael. I found the letters, he said finally. And I found out what your friend meant to say. Emily's mouth parted in disbelief. You went through all that trouble? I had to, he said, voice trembling. Because we let too many things be left unsaid before. I won't make that mistake again. Her lip quivered. You still want me around after everything? I don't just want you around, he said, reaching for her hand. I want you with us. We're so sorry to leave you hanging at this moment, right when hearts are starting to open and healing begins. But tell us this. Do you think Emily should forgive Michael for pushing her away? And do you believe that people can love again after losing someone they thought was there forever? Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if this story has touched you, please like this video and send a heart. It means more than you know. The sun dipped low behind the horizon, casting golden light across the waves as Michael, Emily, and Lily walked along the quiet Oregon beach. For a few moments, the world felt still, peaceful, like it had finally paused to let them breathe. Emily carried a small seashell in her hand, the one Lily had given her earlier, the one she'd said matched the dress Emily wore at her school play. Something so small yet filled with memory and meaning. I found more than letters, Michael said softly, his voice nearly drowned out by the tide. Emily turned to him. I spoke to Catherine's lawyer, her final will. She named you as Lily's godmother. She wanted you in her life, even after all those years apart. She never stopped believing in you. Emily stopped walking, her eyes filled with disbelief. She did, Michael nodded. Margaret hid that part. I never saw it until recently. I think Catherine knew that even if you and she didn't speak again, you'd always care, that somehow you'd still find Lily. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. I didn't come back to replace her. I know, Michael said, stepping closer. But the truth is, you've helped us heal in ways I never thought possible. Lily ran ahead laughing as she chased the receding waves. Michael took Emily's hand. I'm not asking you to fill anyone's shoes. I'm asking if you'll walk beside us as yourself from here on out. Emily smiled, tears slipping down her cheek. You don't even have to ask. Months passed. Michael and Emily returned to Chicago with Lily, now a family of 3 in every way that mattered. Margaret, though hesitant at first, began to thaw. Therapy helped her unpack the years of control and fear that had driven her to tear people apart. And for the first time, she began opening the boxes of memories she had clung to so tightly. One quiet evening, she visited their apartment carrying a small velvet pouch. I found this, she said, handing it to Emily. Inside was a broken heart-shaped pendant, one half missing. Catherine had the other piece, Margaret said quietly. She wore it when she passed. Emily pressed the pendant to her chest. It had once been part of a set, 2 best friends, 1 bond. Thank you, she whispered. It wasn't just a trinket. It was permission to remember, to forgive, and to begin again. 1 year later, on the anniversary of that fateful gala, Michael stood on stage at a new charity event. But this time, he wasn't alone. Emily stood beside him and Lily beamed from the front row. When the music shifted to a soft, melodic tune, Michael turned to Emily and asked, "May I have this dance?" She laughed, half in disbelief. Here, he pulled her gently to the center of the floor. This is where we started. Remember, 1 year ago I collapsed, and you brought me back to life. Tonight I want to ask you to share the rest of it with me. The crowd hushed as Michael knelt, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a delicate silver ring with a deep green stone, like the sea in Seaside, Oregon. Emily Carter, will you be my partner? My love, my family. Tears spilled down her face as Lily ran forward with a bouquet. Emily knelt to embrace her, then stood and nodded. Yes, 1,000 times, yes. They kissed beneath the warm lights with applause rising around them, but none louder than Lily's cheers. Weeks later, the 3 of them visited Catherine's resting place. Lily carried a drawing she had made, 4 people hand in hand with Catherine, watching over them from the sky. Hi, Mom, she said softly, placing the drawing next to the flowers. Thank you for sending Emily. Emily placed her hand on the tombstone. I'll never replace you, but I promise I'll honor you. I'll protect your girl like she's my own. Michael stood behind them, silent, respectful, but whole, in a way he hadn't felt in years. The breeze picked up, gentle and warm, as if answering their words. Emily looked up at the sky, her heart full. Love she had learned didn't vanish. It transformed, it healed. It found its way back in the most unexpected ways. We hope this story touched your heart. But let us ask, have you ever had someone reappear in your life just when you needed them most? And do you believe that second chances come to those who are brave enough to forgive? Let us know what country you're watching from. And if this story moved you, please send a heart and share this video with someone who needs a little hope today. If you love this story, comment no bigger than 3 below. If you thought it was okay, comment no. 2, and if it didn't quite connect, we respect that too. Just comment no but 1, we're listening and we're grateful you're here.